What is up, guys? Welcome to episode number 158 of Beef's Beef. I got a good episode for you guys today. I'm going to preview the NCAA tournament coming up. It's actually the first four starts tonight, as well as the first round starts tomorrow. We're going to talk a little bit about some other stuff as well with one of my good buddies. But before that, I want to talk to you, or I want to give a shout out to my sponsors. First one is Crystal Lackey at Stockton Mortgage. Call Crystal for all your home loan needs, for your refinancing needs, anything that really goes into the home buying process. That's who you need to hit up. Refinancing, all that stuff too. Again, it's Crystal Lackey at Stockton Mortgage. You can get in touch with her at 502-615-0743. Again, it's Crystal Lackey at Stockton Mortgage, 502-615-0743. Stockton Mortgage is an equal housing lender, MLS number 8259. Crystal Lackey, MLS number 1735979. My next sponsor is Delium. You see the shirt here? Boom. Delium is pronounced, it's Delium, Bdelliom. You can find them on Facebook, Delium Clothing, and at Delium Clothing on Instagram. Delium is men's and women's minimalistic brand that focuses on modern aesthetic and quality. Everything comes pre-shrunk, so you don't have to worry about putting it in the dryer and it coming out all small. So everything's ready to wear. You can find his men's line at Him's Gentleman Boutique in downtown New Albany. Again, at Delium Clothing on Instagram and Delium Clothing on Facebook. And last but not least, Mike and Cheese. It's the best macaroni and cheese in town. If you're a listener and you haven't had it yet and you're from this area, order it. They deliver to it's free delivery to Louisville and Southern Indiana. It's a $15 minimum. All trays start at $10. Call them at 502-548-6845. Make sure you try the Beef Pizza Mac. And before anything, make sure you let them know that Beef sent you. Again, it's 502-548-6845. Mike and Cheese, free delivery to Louisville and Southern Indiana area. If it's a little bit further, they ask for you to make up the difference. All right. So today I'm welcoming to the show one of my good friends, Eric Smith. For those of you that have been listening for a while and watched the Last Dance reviews, a lot of you guys love those because Eric is ridiculous. But we're gonna talk about some stuff as far as the NCAA tournament goes. We're gonna talk about Louisville and Kentucky since both storied programs and both missed the tournament. He's a Kentucky fan. I'm a Louisville fan, so I'm sure you're going to get some comedy in that because that's something just he and I do is just go back and forth. So, guys, without further ado, Eric Smith. What's up, Eric? Thanks for joining me, man.
Hey, man, no problem. Been wanting to do it for a while. Glad you finally reached out.
yeah, like we don't talk all the time, and you beg me every time. But hey, I told you I would get you on here at some point, and this is honestly the perfect time to do that.
Right, and like every time we talk, it's like 3 hours. So
you guys think he's kidding? He'll literally call me, and I'll look down at my phone. I'm like, dude, it's 1:15. We've been on the phone for 3.5 hours. I gotta get off the phone.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So there's a lot to talk about. We got the NCAA tournament. The first four starting right now with Texas Southern and Mount St. Mary's. But we got a lot of other stuff to talk about before we get to the NCAA tournament. We got a lot of stuff to break down with the NCAA tournament as well. But you see he's wearing a UK hat. You guys know that I'm a Louisville fan. He and I usually have very good discussions about this stuff because I feel like Eric will try to get under my skin on social media, which you guys will see. But when we talk face to face or talk 100%. On the phone, he's literally a very level-headed person, which I can't believe that I'm taking up for him right now. But there's a lot of stuff going around with Louisville and Kentucky both missing the tournament. It doesn't usually happen, especially with the triumvirate, really. Louisville, Kentucky, and Indiana, all three missing it at the same time.
Well, and even Western.
Yeah, and Western, yeah. I mean, it's pretty crazy that the only team from the state is, Moorhead?
Yeah, and we beat them by 35 in the first game of the year. Kentucky beat – I'm like, yeah, that makes no sense.
So we'll start with Kentucky because there's more stuff that came out with Louisville today. So we'll start with Kentucky. There's a lot of stuff that just went wrong this year for Kentucky. You guys know that I'm not a big Cal fan, but there's a lot of people out there that are bashing Calipari. and saying, this is maybe he needs to be on the hot seat or maybe he needs to go. To me, I think that is a ridiculous statement. I want to hear what your response is to that.
Well, I think that, I'm an avid Kentucky fan. We've talked multiple times. I've been a fan since I was like 12 and diehard. And I think it's absolutely insane that people want him to go. First off, he has a $50 million buyout. I don't know who's paying that. Secondly, I've told you in the past, if you fire him, you fire a Hall of Fame coach that has had one really bad year. 2013 was bad. We got beat in the NIT or first round, and we didn't make the tournament. But we were, we still won, multiple games. We had a shot at getting in the tournament if we could have won a couple games.
Get through a Noel injury from making the tournament.
Correct, right. But this year was it just never clicked. And, I felt like a lot of it is on Cal. But people, exclusively like KSR, Matt Jones, they have the ear of the fan base. They are what people listen to all the time. And when they start talking about, I've talked to you about, offensively, he's got to change stuff. And what I told you is I don't think it's offensive, because the last 11 years they've done pretty well offensively. I would say, and that kind of happened with the Alabama tick, Alabama and Nate Oates, he came in, runs that style. But then, more you look at it, when he was at Buffalo, he didn't play that style. He was more athletic. So he kind of meshes with what he has, which is what a good coach does. But, my thing all year when they would talk about that is I think to switch to that kind of offense for us would be crazy, because we don't have shooters. You and I coach together. I've coached for a long time. I'm going to say we're going to pack this thing in, and I don't care what you if they hit 23s, we're losing anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I think for me, and I think Cal hit on this in his last call-in show, and he hit a lot of high points with a lot of UK fans. He said what you wanted to hear, but his main thing is there's been a shift, and you and I've talked about it, in the way the game is played. You don't have to be able, I've watched Gonzaga play. I don't think they don't shoot 43s a game. They shoot probably 25.
Yeah.
But they have a prototypical big dude that can get you in the post. He still runs a lot of the flex offense he ran early on in his career. He just has different variations out of it. And they're more up tempo. And what Cal said is 5 to 7 years ago, if you were an athletic kid that was long athletic, but maybe you couldn't shoot that well, right? He said, you're going to go in the first round. He said, now that kid's not getting drafted, or he's not getting drafted in the second round, and then, he talks a lot about he needs to change his recruiting style to do more more skill position players,
Yeah.
Just because he said shooting is at a much more premium, than it was. And he admitted that he this year was lost with this team offensively. He said, we struggled offensively. I couldn't quite, figure out the buttons to push, and he cleared something up, which I think the fan base talked about a lot. He'd always talk about COVID, and he said, look, this COVID it's not I'm not using that as an excuse. I'm saying it affected us because we're the kind of team that in the summer we play pickup ball, and that's when these guys that are new learn how to play with the old guys or whatever. And he said we didn't get that, and he said I was probably overcautious than I should have been. He said so that played a factor. He said, but overall, this is on us as a coaching staff. This is on us. We recruited the guys, and he said some of them just and he said, look, these guys. He said the one thing I want to say, and he said this all year. He said these guys gave effort every game. They played hard every game.
Something on this, because I don't want to leave the part where he's putting them. I would say, I'm going to ask you this: do you think that a lot of it had to do with not having that point guard that he normally has?
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. He put it. It's pretty clear to me. He put all of his eggs in the Cade Cunningham basket.
Yeah,
and that's the guy they recruited heavily.
I don't think that Devin Askew is a bad get for
No,
for his senior year. I think
correct.
Devin Askew, you will agree, it left too early. The two guys that Louisville was in on was him and Christian Lander. Both of them looked absolutely horrid at times this year.
Right.
They needed to stay one more year in high
Correct.
school. I think Devin Askew is going to be a solid. I think he's going to be a solid player by the time he leaves Kentucky.
Right. I agree.
But I think that's what hurt a lot of the players, because a lot of people are like, well, B.J. Boston's overrated. No, B.J. Boston played with a really good point guard in high school. B.J. Boston's not a guy that needs to have the ball in his hand all the time to create a shot. He can come off screens. He can handle the ball some. But if you're putting the majority of the ball handling on him to find his own shot all the time, he's not going to be successful.
Right. And I think he went a little too late to Davion Mintz at the point. And I think, everybody asked why he waited so long. I really think he felt like Davion needed to focus on scoring and not facilitating the offense. And, I have experienced that because, when I was at Moore the year before you got there, we were top 3 in the state. We had Daquan Boyd at point guard, and we played Ballard when they had Quentin Snyder, Keelan Martin, and Levon Holland. And the reason we won that game is because we had a sophomore point guard named Jalen Sanford. He could take pressure off of Daquan having to handle the ball against that extreme pressure all the time.
Yeah.
And I think he didn't want to put that on Davion. And, Askew plays hard. Like offensively, he was challenged. But the Cade Cunningham thing, I mean, if they don't hire his brother at Oklahoma State, I think he commits to Kentucky. And then this is a whole different thing, because you're talking about a guy that can penetrate. And he's going to set, guys like Mintz up. He's going to set guys like Boston up. And he's going to be able to get those lobs to the rim because guys are going to have to come off. And that's what his offense has always been predicated off of, like a strong guard that can get to the rim and can finish. And, with Cade, you get not just that, you get a strong guard that can guard. He can guard.
You get Cade Cunningham, you may have one of the best point guards that's ever been in Kentucky.
I agree. And and so when he put all his eggs in those baskets and then he gets Devin Askew, like you said, I feel like he put him in a bad spot. But I also feel like when Terrence Clark got hurt, that hurt, but I don't know if he was a point guard, but he could have shared some of the ball handling responsibilities. So he kind of put him in a bad spot, but I don't know if he had any other choice until the middle of the year when we go to Mintz at point guard and he has like eight assists and 1 turnover, and then I think over when he played point guard this year at the end of the year, he had 23 assists and 3 turnovers. So obviously he could have done that. And I think he even said, I probably could have made that move earlier.
But then you lose that scoring from him as well, though.
Correct. And that's what I think I think that's what he thought. And, our fan base, we're crazy at best, and a lot of stuff just went off the rails. Like we start talking about how Cal talks to us as fans, and they really pump that up on the radio, on the KSR show. And I'm like, my thing is he has done this since day one. He has talked down to the fan base since day one. Why now all of a sudden is it a huge deal? Because
that's what guys like he and Pitino do. If
correct,
Pitino, he is literally he's literally cut off of the same thing as Pitino.
There's a reason why he's great at Kentucky, because Pitino was great at Kentucky.
Yeah,
he's cut from that cloth.
Yeah.
So that was my thing. I'm like, you can't, and they kept harping on. I'm like, look, this happened all the time. I would listen to the post game show and I'd be like, dude, our fans are up there yucking it up because we're beating teams, but he's basically saying you guys are going to go home and watch 10 hours of film. And I'm like, that's a dig.
Let's be honest though. You can say whatever you want to people if you're winning.
Correct. Yeah. And that's true.
And when you start losing, that's when people start getting upset with the way you talk to them, because there's people that are getting upset with the way Mac has said things now. And it's the same thing.
Yeah, and I think there was something that was said on that show that I think Kenny Payne and Dwayne Peavy leaving hurt him a lot, because I think Cal's the kind of guy that he trusts those two dudes a lot. So it came out evidently that there was in the beginning of the year chemistry issues with the team, which were basically Cameron Fletcher and Terrence Clark had issues. And the rest of the team was trying to get on the same page chemistry-wise.
Fletcher's gone now, right?
Yeah, he transferred. And Clark, I'm sure he'll go pro. But my thing was with that was, I mean, that's something Kenny Payne probably takes care of. Cal didn't have to worry about it. He doesn't have to worry about that. Cal's going to get them in check. And maybe it doesn't work this year. Maybe it doesn't work. But at the same time, like, he would have got it to cover it up enough to where it would work. We wouldn't have just won 9 games.
Yeah.
So, and then Dwayne Peavy, I mean, he was very, very negative at times towards the fan base. Like, he just was. And, like, I think that's where Dwayne Peavy says, look, man, you're starting to lose the fan base a little bit, and you need to come back down a little bit. You need to say some things. And I mean, that's the thing. I don't think a lot of people know. Like, Dwayne Peavy dealt directly with Cal. Cal doesn't talk to Barnhart very much. And it's not because they don't get along, but, like, Peavy was better, I think, at working with Cal.
Yeah.
And so, like, when that goes, man, that's a lot. And he's a Hall of Fame coach. He is not going to say losing Kenny Payne hurt us that bad. He's just not, but he talked a lot about on his show, like, it was, he said, look, I'm at Kentucky. This is unacceptable.
Yeah.
And he said, this is on me. It's on my staff. And we have to do things to be better next year. And he said, what I did like is he just never was that, like, that swaggy Cal. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was never like, and then, so he talked a lot about changing the offense, but gearing it more towards shooters. Like, he talked about, and with him, you don't know, like, he could be catering to the fan base, and he could be just saying, like, he could be sincere, but, like, he made the comment, like, I need to get more guys like Derek Willis, a stretch 4 who can shoot from the outside, who he wouldn't play because he couldn't guard people.
Yeah.
And that was the thing about Dante Allen that people talked about. And, like, my thing with Dante Allen was this, like, bottom line was this. Yes, you can play him 30 minutes when he's 6 for 11 from the 3-point line against Mississippi State. You definitely, because you can handle him having some defensive deficiencies. Yeah. But you've coached too. Like, if he's going to be out there and he's not going to shoot shots when he's open, or he's not going to shoot well, you really can't.
Why are you playing him?
Right. And so, like, he stopped doing that, but our fan base took it as, like, they took it as far as to say, like,
Cal took because mojo or something.
No, like Cal came in the press conference after the Mississippi State game when he said on the last play, I think Davion Mintz had the ball and Dante Allen was supposed to set a pick, and then Davion was supposed to come behind, and then he had Sarr on the opposite side. So his thought process is, if I get him a pick, he's downhill. They're either going to come over or they're not, and he's going to have a layup or he's going to kick. And he said, and he didn't say it in a negative. He said Dante just missed the screen. So then they take that as, like, that's the only thing you talk about. No, that's not. He's just saying, like,
that's a big part of a play.
Right. That's a huge part of a play. But he did say, he said, look, but we still got a great look. And he said, we wouldn't, be there. We wouldn't be in that spot if he wasn't out there. But they take that as, like, because he is a Kentuckian, that he's, like, not playing him in spite of the fans, or, like, he's talking about him in the press conference in spite of the fans. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, no, like, that's just false. But at the end of the day, I think what has to happen, I think Barbie, or from what I hear, Barbie or Justice might get jobs. So he'll have an opening. And if I'm him, you got to go to Mitch and you got to say, I don't care how much money it takes. I need Orlando back. Because he's an assistant in Illinois. And, like, you see our best teams were 2012, 2010, 2012, 2015, all recruiting classes that were headlined that Orlando got. So, like, and I think he's another guy that they can trust. They can trust. Like, he can trust. Like, I just can't believe that Kenny wouldn't look at him at one point and be like, dude, what are we doing on offense? Like, what are we doing? Like, we got to do something different. We can't score.
Yeah.
And he looks at that bench, and he's probably like Bruiser Flintsnoo, who I think will be a good addition. Jai Lucas is going to be phenomenal because he gets recruits. It's what he does. But I don't know if he looks at the other two and he's like, I don't know. But that's –
So, in your opinion, do you think you throw all your eggs in Orlando Antigua basket and then just bump up Jay Lucas and make him the third assistant?
Maybe. Yeah, I would. I mean, I would. But if you get Orlando, he can slide into that Kenny Payne role.
Yeah.
So, again, this is all hearsay. I have no idea. Like, I mean, I've heard some stuff, some scuttlebutt about it. Like, but, like, I don't have any credible source to say that. But That's just what I would imagine. But I think at the end of the day, he wants to run an offense where they shoot more threes, but they're not relying on it.
Yeah.
But to do that, like, he's going to have to get shooters because the big kid from West Virginia is going to he's got to have space to work. And if they can't shoot, you can't open up that offense. So, I mean, I think he's, his last quote, which was, "There's a lot of people happy out there." He said, and he basically said, "Enjoy it now because next season's coming soon enough."
That's a pretty loaded sentence to say. I mean, I agree. If I'm you, if I'm a Kentucky fan, I love
that's what I want to hear. Right. I do. Yeah, I did.
That's what I want to hear. But if they fail again next year, that's
I know. No, but if they,
that's the thing though. Every great player or coach it's arrogant in some sense.
Yeah.
You have to have some sense of arrogance.
Right.
I mean, you got to put it out there because that's going to tell all the kids that he has coming in, the ones that are staying, well, he's got confidence in us.
Right. So, and then with that, but I think that was a direct, that is directed at, I think he knows Nate Oates at Alabama is going to be doing some really good things, but he's like, look, you may have got me this year, but next, because that's the name everybody talked about. And that is the one thing they did on the, at KSR, a guy called in and said, well, we got to look, what about Nate Oates? And he said, so you want to trade Calipari, who's taken us to 4 Final Fours, an Elite Eights, Sweet 16s, won a national title, for Nate Oates. And he said, how many Final Fours has he been to? Guy said, well, none. How many titles? None. And he said, well, in his short career, he said, but yeah, you're putting a lot on just the success he had at Buffalo and Alabama. If he sustains it, then I could see that.
I don't even think Nate Oates is the second best coach in the conference.
Who do you think it is?
Eric Musselman.
I do too. I'm with you 100% because he even said stuff like that was, I know you don't like Barstool, but pardon my take. They had him on and he was he said, they asked him about, did you take any of the stuff from the Golden State Warriors? He said, I mean, I use some of the stuff they did. He said, but I don't have Steph Curry or Klay Thompson. So I can't. So what he's saying is I take fractions of what they do and try to implement it with the guys I have, which is the smart thing. But I don't want Cal to go to a practice floor where basically at Alabama, they have it taped out with 3-pointers and layups. That's it. I don't want them taking 18-foot twos, but they need to be able to hit floaters in the lane, 15-foot jump shots because, but his rule is it's either a 3 or a layup, is what I heard. So, and our buddy, Richard loves Nate Oates. He sends me stuff all the time talking about, look at this and look at that. And one time he sent me something and called it their triangle look. And I looked at it and I thought, man, this is just Phil Jackson and Tex Winter's triangle offense. But I mean, it was different because of the way they interchange, and it was good. But I think Nate Oates is going to be a good coach. But I agree with you. I think Eric Musselman is really good.
Yeah, I loved Eric Musselman in Nevada.
Yeah, I did too. He was great. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, we'll get Cal back next year. We'll see what happens. A lot's going to have to happen over the summer because he doesn't know. If you ask me who I think he wants to get back, I think because there's now 60-40 that Boston goes pro. And I think he may have seen.
You think it's that big of a chance that he comes back?
Yeah, I mean, with some of the stuff, his dad has said it's it may be close to 50-50. Because, I think they feel in his camp that, if he comes back and he puts on muscle, he could move back up into that lottery or maybe even at the top 10. But if he goes to this is what you have to ask yourself. If I'm BJ Boston, do I want to go to the NBA and most likely play in the G League? Because that's what's probably going to happen because physically he's not ready.
Yeah.
Or do I want to go back to Kentucky and play there? But it is a risk at Kentucky. And that's what Cal said. Cal said, you got to have Emmanuel Quickley's outlook, which was, he said, he came to me and said, Coach, I wasn't ready physically, mentally. It was a lot harder than I thought, but I'm going to be ready next year. And so you see that jump, but that's got to be
Washington also did the same thing.
But you've got to have that mentality. And I don't know. I think he does, and I think Cal's alluding to that he does. And then I think Davion Mintz, he wants to get back. And I've heard there's some people overseas that are saying basically that he is he's 50-50 may come back, and then Keon Brooks. And I think for Keon, I don't imagine it would be going pro. I think it would be transfer portal, but I don't know. I mean, Dante Allen's coming back, which makes me think that all that stuff they said about Dante Allen and Cal and all that drama, it was probably not as much as we made it out to be. And then Askew's back, but we had fans. They talk about it all the time. I want guys to come back. I want guys to come back.
Let me ask you a question before we pass to ask you.
Yeah.
Did you hear that his family made a call to a different team?
Who? Askew? No, I didn't know that. It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me at all. And like he said, go ahead.
And our coaching staff said, no, thanks.
Oh, so it was you all. Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing though. Like, if you look at the way he played, he had ample opportunity to show what he had. I mean, Cal played him 30 minutes a game.
Yeah.
And
especially
like
at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
No one has tape on you at all. So
right.
You're basically at that point you're playing strictly off of your skill base.
Right.
And yeah, he didn't show up. I'm not gonna lie to you. When you all got him, I was very bummed about it.
You told me that. Yeah.
And about halfway through the year, I was like, we made out like bandits getting Carlink Jones and them getting Devin Askew.
Right. So I think those are the three he'd want back. I think like Lance Ware wouldn't be surprised if he went in the transfer portal, but
wait, Lance Ware's in the transfer portal?
No. Like there was reports he was, and then he came out and said he wasn't. Like all this stuff is speculation because they talk about his Instagram, what he changed his profile picture. I'm like, none of that can mean anything. But I mean, he could go on the transfer portal, and then, I'm guessing Jacob Toppin comes back, considering he was a starter towards the end of the year, and I think he could be a big piece because he showed some signs of being really athletic like his brother. So overall, I don't think it could be worse. But you never. Summer's big. Like he has to have a summer. And he said he did talk about that, and he said if we have a summer, we're going to play a lot of pickup. I'm going to go back to play more pickup so these guys can learn each other. And he said, he kind of talked about it a little bit because people hear pickup and they think, well, he's just throwing a ball. He's like, well, no, I'm going to give dudes like, hey, Devin, you're not looking to score. You're trying to make up other people score. So that's the kind of stuff he was talking about. So we'll see. But
I do think Jackson's gone though. I know he's put his name in, but they said he's going to go look. To me, if I'm Jackson, I make the combine. Jackson's going to be athletically in that, and I don't see.
I was shocked when he even said that
he's just looking.
Or he wasn't going to sign an agent because he's the only one I felt like would go maybe lottery.
Yeah.
And really he's not an effective shooter, but they can teach that. But also he's just so incredibly athletic. It's just you can't teach it, and he's got a motor.
Yeah.
But Terrence Clark will go pro because he was either going to the G League or to Kentucky. So I don't think he's going to care about playing the G League. So that's kind of, what I think about them. I think our fan base was just, they say things like we're going to go after Billy Donovan. And I'm like, yeah, okay, dude. We just he just signed a contract with the Bulls. And then early on, we got to call Brad Stevens. And I'm like, yeah, he just got out of the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't imagine he's going to leave Boston and come to Kentucky. So I don't know.
I will say this though. Did you see his press conference talking about Indiana the other day?
Yeah. And
that one sounded like there might actually be a chance on that one.
But he's starting to I think he's starting to lose his luster with the Celtics a little bit this year.
I also did not realize that he had been there 8 years already.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Does not feel like he's been there 8 years until he said it in the press conference.
Not even a little bit. Wow, I didn't even know that. So you just said it.
Yeah, he said it in the press conference. He's like, yeah, we've been here for the last 8 seasons. So I was like, what?
God, where's my life going?
That's what I'm saying. The last I remember, Gordon Hayward shooting half-court shots to
almost knocking it in.
Yeah.
Oh, that was crazy.
So, not only is your all's fan base crazy, but ours is crazy.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on UofL too.
So, I almost said Cal, but Chris Mack had his end of the season press conference as well. And to be honest with you, I was happy with 95% of the things he said. I'll give you the 5%. I really feel like he is partly to blame, but I think if you're going to ask me to be 100% honest, I think 90% of this is not his fault, and I think 10% of it he needs to own up to.
Right.
Now, The part that I did not like about his press conference, he made very valid points on what he said. You have so many things that are going into this, and I'll go into those. But one thing you got to say if you're a coach at a blue blood or you're still partly to blame in some of this. And that's one thing I didn't feel like he did was he never said, and that's on us. We got to get better at that. That's really the only part of that entire conversation that I was not happy with.
Well, then you see today that he fired his assistant coach. So then he's
2 assistant coaches.
Yeah. So he's kind of, the common, like what I've, you're right. I get on Facebook to troll you. You never got involved in the conversation I was in. Cause cause you go 0 to 100 really fast when I get involved. And, they were talking, and like the big thing they talked about, like a lot of fans talked about, was like, they didn't make the tournament because of COVID. And like, I can agree. That's not an excuse, but like, I don't think you can use that as an excuse because every team had COVID. Now I know that you all had more, but I know like Villanova missed 11 games. And I know that Baylor missed 11 games. And I know Iona was out for a month, like tournament teams that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So my thing with that is you and I've talked about the video, which I thought it was great. Like, I think it's good for the rivalry. Like, it's funny. Like, I don't think he was being malicious. Like, I just think he was sending a video to his buddy, Kenny Payne. So the question I asked some people on there was like, why did they have so many COVID cases? Like, what was the call? And then I said, I think that video takes a new thing, because like he's on that video with people that don't live with him without a mask. And then he got COVID himself.
Yeah.
So like, I think if you're going to say that, then you've got to be willing to say like, look, Max got to lead a little bit better in that regard. Now he didn't think that was going to get out. That was, I don't know the details. I know that somebody there sent it to KSR or whatever. And, I don't know if he was there or if he sent it to a buddy who sent it, but like it was after the North Carolina game and they had just gotten beat really bad. And, so there's that, but like, that was my thing. I'm like, you got the cases, you all had a lot of them. And like the Wisconsin game, I didn't know, cause I wasn't really like beginning of the year. I didn't really pay attention like as much as I probably should. I didn't realize Carly Jones didn't play.
Jones didn't play, and that was our second game back from COVID. Yeah.
Yeah, and like if he doesn't play, I don't think it should be like a 40-point loss, but like
that's one thing that I've always said. I don't think we should have lost either of those games by 40. That's not an excuse that I'll ever say.
Correct,
but
and I agree.
You don't have a potential ACC Player of the Year. I know he was in the top 3 of the voting.
Yeah,
the dude balled out the whole season.
He was great. He was good.
And you don't have him. And you're coming back from a 28-day pause. I keep saying Cal because we just talked about. Max said that there was 10 minutes into that game that Jalen Withers couldn't even run up and down the floor anymore.
I can believe it. Yeah, I mean, I can believe it for sure, because like if you don't practice for those days, I guess, did you all make up any of those games?
No.
See, and that's the other thing.
That's the other part of it. That's why when I say that our COVID pauses were different, we didn't make up games. We missed games against NC State. We missed games against UNC Greensboro, which that one doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We missed 2 games against Syracuse.
Yeah.
We missed another game against Virginia Tech, and we missed another game against Boston College.
And not Virginia.
We played Virginia.
Did you all reschedule that one?
No, it was the last game of the season.
No, there was one in there that said Virginia. When I looked at your all schedule, you all didn't play Virginia. I guess you're supposed to play them at home. When I looked at the schedule. No, I'm saying at their place. I think you had them twice.
Maybe. But then not only that, we played Clemson and lost on the road by 4 points, and they gave us that game a day before because Boston College had cases. So, again, it's an excuse. It is, but I feel like there's valid excuses in there. But at the end of the day, you have to take at least a little bit of ownership on what happened.
Correct.
Again, I think a lot of this stuff was out of his control. And I think a lot of the stuff that people are putting on him is just like what we were talking about with Cal is – maybe some of his stuff is wearing on people because we didn't win this year. But I want to take us all the way back to the beginning of when he got here.
Yeah, I know. I was going to do the same.
So the year before he gets here is that whole debacle where David Padgett takes over for a year.
Right.
We get 0 recruits during that season. Zero recruits.
Right. Yeah.
So then you come in the next year. We have a team that everyone says is not going to make the tournament. It's a bridge year. You know, he's building to get back from everything. You make the tournament. Granted, we lose the first game, but it's a terrible matchup for us because you put us in a situation where we're playing against Rick Pitino Jr.
Listen to what you just said, though. He took over a team with 0 recruits and a team that was picked to finish, I would say, second to last or like third to last in the ACC.
Low. Yeah.
And he went to the tournament. And then last year, before, like, I believe they spent some time ranked in the top 15.
We were number 1 at some point last year.
Right. And I'm like, so you're talking about – so that's the same thing. You know, people aren't happy that the North Carolina game that, like, they got beat by 50. And I get – or whatever, like close to 50. I get that, and I understand that. But, like, at the same time, you got to give him a little bit of slack. Because, like – and, like, it was Chris Coleman on the Facebook thread. So, and Daquan started it. You know, our guy likes to stir stuff up. But my thing was – like, I just said, you can't, like, he was strictly blaming COVID. I'm like, dude, you can't do that. I said, you guys, hold on a minute. They only beat two tournament teams the whole year that made the tournament, Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech. And then they were 1-7 with quad 1 games. And if you look at the ones you make up, I think you split Syracuse. I think you probably could have beaten Virginia Tech. So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And the Duke loss just didn't help at the end of the year. And like I said, but
with that though, is you beat them twice already. Yeah. Why does one loss? That was my biggest thing with that. Is I understand we lost to a team that we shouldn't have lost, but we've already beaten them twice.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And one of the games you beat them, they had one of the best players in the country in Jalen Johnson.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, and then I told him, I said, at the end of the day, you all were out because Oregon State and Georgetown got automatic bids. That's it. They stole bids.
You say that, but then there's teams like Drake. Drake had 0 wins against the net top 50. So that's the biggest thing with
Did they get an at-large?
Yeah, they got an at-large bid.
Yeah, okay, that is.
Or
something.
I'm sorry, it was Wichita State that had 0 wins against the net top 50. We had 4 or 5 wins. So that's the biggest thing with the selection committee is don't tell us that the net means something.
Right.
When a team lives up to doing that, and gets that many wins in the net top 50, that you're not going to use that. And it was kind of fishy. I'm not going to be one of those conspiracy theories that says it's the Mitch Barnhart thing because there's more than just Mitch Barnhart.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like. You can't tell me that Mitch Barnhart can't be in the room whenever they're doing a selection for, a rival in the conference, but he can be in the room when he's in there for Louisville.
Yeah, I don't know, but my thing, I didn't even know Mitch was, and when he came on, I literally had no clue, and then he popped up on the screen. I was like, ooh, that looks, somebody said it'd be great if in the background when we said Louisville was the first team out, they were playing Africa in the background like Chris did. But I mean, like you have to think about it objectively. Like Mitch isn't that kind of dude. Like I believe what he said, but like the Drake thing is kind of. I mean,
the Wichita State,
it's kind of like fishy a little bit. Like, and you all were like 6-0 in quad two games. Like, you just weren't good in the quad one games. I get, but I mean, Kentucky didn't help you this year. Like, because normally if you win that game, we're one of the top 10 teams in the country.
Duke
so you get that. Duke didn't help you. Those 2 wins didn't help you. And then
the 2 big losses are what probably put us over the edge.
Right.
It's tough. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the moves that he made today, letting go of Luke Murray and letting go of Dino Gaudio, I was very surprised at Dino Gaudio. To me,
I was too.
I thought it was going to be Pegues that was going to be gone.
Yeah.
One of the biggest gripes from our fan base, which really doesn't make sense, and I'll tell you why it doesn't make sense in a little bit, is that our big men don't dunk the ball. Someone brought up, well, Pegues in college was an undersized big man. It was just more about finesse. So you kind of wonder if that's more what he teaches his big men to do.
Yeah, but
But at the end of the day, if you really think about it, when Pitino was here, there's only one dunker that he really had the entire time.
Montrezl Harrell.
It was Montrez and Terrence Williams. That's the 2 guys. Everybody else we always we always got mad because Honest Mahmoud didn't dunk the ball. Like this has been the thing for forever. So it's kind of weird for us to kind of for our fan base to kind of put that on Mac and say that our
Is
big
it
guys
like
don't dunk.
is it older fans like because the doctor's a dunk? Like
I
I don't
guess.
know.
I don't know,
Like
man.
because like
Well, no, I mean it does get frustrating watching some of our players
miss
when they.
layups.
Yes, I mean we went
Right.
5 for 10 from layups, or 5 for 12
Yeah.
at layups against Duke. So I mean that right there wins you the game.
Yeah, preaching to the choir, brother. We were one of the worst 2-point shooting teams in the country.
Yeah. So I think going forward, I think they're going to get John Brennan from Cincinnati. I think that's going to be one move, and I think that they'll promote our the same thing that Jay Lucas is for you guys.
Yeah.
And we'll promote him up, and that's going to be our new 2 assistant coaches. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be kind of going to be different, but I don't know. It also next year a lot hinges on whether Carleek and Malik come back. I hear Malik is somewhat leaning towards coming back.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's 50-50. Surprisingly.
Would you be afraid though if Carleek came back that David Johnson might put himself in the transfer portal?
David Johnson's going to the draft.
Yeah, I know, but like his draft stock has kind of gone down.
It has. I've heard from a pretty good source that he told them that he was going to the NBA regardless.
Yeah, and I think there's some bad blood between like right now with Matt. I don't think he liked that he got Carleek in at the 1 because he felt like that was his job.
He's not going to like it next year either because we have another guy coming in that does the exact same thing as Carleek. That's
right.
The JUCO scorer named L. Ellis. So I mean, it's either you play with Carleek again, who you played really well with whenever you guys were playing together.
Right.
Like I've thought they played really well off of each other.
They single-handedly beat Kentucky. Those 2 by themselves beat us at the end of the game because it was. I mean, we lost by 3 and we had shots to win it or whatever, or tie it. But like
we did to you all the exact same thing we did to Duke the first time. It was find the weaker defender, give the ball to that guard, and then just drive to the rim, get fouled, or score. That's exactly what we did.
Which was probably BJ Boston. 90%.
I think it was Askew. Askew was getting killed.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, he was. But like Askew's not like he struggled against small guards.
Yeah,
he's not quick. But like I was excited he was coming back because like I think like you do. I think in like and he said like before he's like I was never coming here as a one and done. I was coming here to be here for 2 to 3 years. So like that's the kind of guy you want. That's what they say. But like that's the thing with fans who sometimes don't think, like I talk all kinds of stuff, but like at the end of the day, I try to think about the game. When I started coaching, that's what like I try to do. But like at the end of the day, you just like he played as hard as he could. But like you can't say that I don't want one and dones. I want guys to stay, but you want those one and done guys to stay. They're not staying. Like they're not. And the thing about Cal I do like, and some people don't, I like that a kid can come into his office and he's like, they're like, I'm thinking about coming back. And he's like, you're a top 10 pick. Like you can't come back. You don't have a scholarship. Like I like that just because like that means he shows he cares for the kid, right? But there are some where I'm like, why didn't you get this guy back? Like Wenyon Gabriel was one. And I think there was a lot of animosity between him. And I think Cal said stuff and like all everybody talks about is how he doesn't make promises. But it sounds to me like he was going to let Wenyon play on the perimeter and he didn't. But then my other thing was, that was the other thing about like, I think what's on Cal a lot.
I think your mic went out or something. Hang on. Can you hear me still? You can't hear me either?
I got you. We're good.
Okay, there we
Sorry.
go. I don't know what was going on.
My internet sometimes, like if I does that again, I'll just switch to my phone.
Oh, it's all good.
So
you were saying, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that's gone wrong. I think I do think one thing that Cal, I don't want to say needs to change because when you're a Hall of Fame coach, it's kind of tough to say that, but I think this is the time when guys like Coach K and Calipari and guys that have that fiery attitude, kids are going to stop going there.
Yeah.
Again,
Right.
Duke didn't win this year either. So
Yeah.
and Duke had the number 1 class this year, I believe, or it
Yeah.
was up there.
No, we had the number 1 class, I think.
They had number 2, which that's the
Right.
thing. Kids are going to stop going places where they're getting yelled at all the time,
Right.
especially if they're not winning. If you're winning cures
Yeah.
all. That's the biggest thing.
Right.
If you're going to go there and you're going to yell at me, we're going to suck. I'm not going to go there and play for you. Like, what does
Right.
that do?
Right.
Again, this is an outlier for Duke and Kentucky, and I mean, even with all that stuff with Louisville, we still were the first team out of the tournament. Which I don't do participation trophies. Like, I'm not trying to hang a banner for the first, but there's things there that show. That's the other thing with this is like the fans that say Mac needs to go or put. We were still the very first team out. Like, we legitimately had a case to be in the tournament. Like, there was cases with us that Syracuse we could have beaten out of the tournament, Wichita State we could have beaten out of the tournament. There's plenty of teams we could have, but we didn't. And that's the biggest thing is, well, we shouldn't just be settled for making the tournament. That's fine. But you also,
I agree.
Those same fans are the same ones cheering for Rick Pitino at Iona.
Right.
Which doesn't make sense to me.
So then you're getting to the corner of your fan base that's like the corner of ours. Like, they wait and kind of hide until Cal does like he does this year, and then they come out of the woodwork. I'm not, and they do that. So that's probably what you're dealing with. I mean,
the biggest thing that makes zero sense to me is with this stuff is you are so mad at all the stuff that is surrounding the program. I wish this stuff would go away, but you still love the dude that put us in that position. Whether he got proven innocent or whatever, he hired those guys.
Right, I agree. I'm with you too.
People that say that stuff are the same ones that say that Cal should have known the stuff that happened at UMass and Memphis.
I know, and that's why I believe 100% that Rick knew and Cal knew. I just think they just were good at hiding it. Like, that's just my thought. Two guys like that micromanage is the way they do. Like, there's no way he didn't know. But at the same time, like, I thought the stuff with Rick and like the Karen Cypher stuff was funny, and like the stuff with what happened, it was funny, but like I never like Rick is the reason where we're like he pulled us out of like darkness, and like there's no question the dude can coach.
Yeah, that's not one thing that I will ever question.
Right,
the guy's one of the top 2 to 3 best coaches of all time.
Like what I think happened to Rick, what frustrates me a little bit now is like, I mean, your dude at LSU is still coaching, and he is on tape saying we made a heck of an offer for Smart, heck of an offer.
Yeah.
And then Bill Self is the same way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you waiting for? Like, and my thing is maybe this thing reached further than people thought, and maybe the NCAA backed off. Like, because if you start getting into like Kentucky and Duke, you start finding Izzo, like Michigan State, maybe they like were dabbling in that stuff too. Like, you're talking about taking some blue blood programs away that you don't want to, and even Louisville at that juncture, Louisville was the only one that they had anything on. They said there was going to be more.
That's the thing. They had way more stuff on everybody else, but we were the face of that.
Right. And I think Rick at the end of the day was let go because of the stuff that happened with the Katina Powell, and then also the Karen Cypher stuff. I think eventually, he was just.
I mean, time after time, things that have come from Rick Pitino have caused us to lose recruits, have caused us to lose a banner, We dropped from the top 8 in all-time wins to number 24.
I know. Because
of things that came from people that he hired. Granted, was it him? No, but the, crap flows uphill is what they always say. It doesn't. You hired the guy. So at the end of the day, that's on you.
I mean, I said this to somebody the other day as a joke. I was like, man, what if Rick was a mole the whole time for Kentucky? He took down UofL from the inside.
Well, here's the other thing, man, is like maybe the end of it was people trying to get him out of here. I don't know. Like that's another thing another angle you could take is either this stuff is legitimate, which I think some of it was, or there's somebody that really, really doesn't like him and was really trying to get him out of here.
Right.
You could make the case for the Nike higher ups saying there's an Adidas team that is absolutely killing it. We need to get them out of there. The same thing with Bill Self, because Bill Self's on the hot seat right now. I know that it doesn't look like Bill Self is. Some more stuff's going to come out about Bill Self, I guarantee.
I mean, because my thing is, like, they fired the AD and Les Miles, and what Les Miles did, I think, happened at LSU, right?
Yeah.
And
they fired the AD because they said that they didn't do a good enough job at doing a background check. That was why they fired the AD.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's fishy. That's fishy to me. Like I said, I hope you're right, but like, I mean, I think this thing is like widespread. I think a lot of programs probably do it, and I think a lot of your top programs do it. I just think at the top, you got dudes that don't know. Like you got I think, like Rick Pitino could say he doesn't know. Cal could say it. So could, there's no the thing is the Nike stuff. Like, I mean, that stuff got taken care of. Like, it was gone before they got there, or maybe they would have blown it off the top. But I just have a hard time believing like just Kansas, because you got to think if you're offering kids money, and some of these kids are like 5-star kids, right? Like, so you're recruiting them. You don't just quit recruiting them because like, oh, that guy's offering money. Like, come on, no, you don't do that. Like, you just, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, I think both programs are in a good spot. Now, I think if Chris Mack like doesn't have, and if Cal has another year like this, like, yeah, there's something has to be talked about because, or if he doesn't try to change, like, he talked about changing his offense. And, I think what a lot of fans wanted to hear is like, it's unacceptable for this to happen in Kentucky. But I got news for him. I heard him say it 1,000 times. I heard him say it on his calling, like his post-game show with Tom Leach. I've heard him say it like in press conferences, but now they hear it. And, you'd ask me, does he get a pass? I think pass is not the right word. I think he's done enough at Kentucky to be able to come back for another year and prove himself again, like that.
So neither one of our teams are in the tournament, but I'm not going to lie. I'm still excited for a tournament.
I am too, because we didn't have one last year.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm taking that. I'm very excited about it.
So I sent Eric some different stuff. We're not going to go through the entire bracket game by game or anything like that, but we're going to talk a lot about it. I gave him some certain things that we'll talk about. And the first thing we'll start with is looking at the bracket. Your first impression. What do you think is the strongest regional in your opinion?
I think it's either the East or the Midwest. The East, because you look at the bracket, like Michigan's down Isaiah Livers. I think even with Isaiah Livers, LSU could beat them in the second round. Georgetown is playing some of the best basketball in the country right now. I mean, he won like what, he won 4 straight. Was it 4 or 5 straight?
I think it's 4 straight. Yeah,
4 straight, and
still didn't get recognized in his own building.
Yeah, that was. How do you not know who Patrick Ewing is? Like, but that game intrigued. I think officiating matters in that game because the Pac-12, like they normally call it close, and the Big East. I mean, you all were in it for a long time, and they're physical, and that's the reason they got through the Big East is because they were physical, and it was like that Hoya paranoia, like the just real physical type basketball. So, that. And then you've got, I'm telling you, and I didn't think this until I watched them play at the end of the year, but Michigan State, I did not realize they had 3 of the best wins in the country. I just did. I mean, like I didn't, they beat 2 number 1s and a 2. And so I think they can have they could make a little bit of a run, but I do think, like, Texas is another. There's just so many teams that I could see coming out of this region.
And don't
like
see Connecticut either. Connecticut has good enough guard play that they could honestly make an Elite 8 run because they could get hot. They could beat Alabama and Texas with their guard play.
They got that they got that Kemba Walker type too. So the more I look at it, I think probably the East is the toughest. And, I think Michigan would be tough if they had Isaiah Livers. That's just such a big piece to lose,
Yeah,
That's a
and the
big
thing that I
piece to
read
lose.
before we got on here was if he makes it back, it's going to be miraculous.
Yeah, so that he had he fractured his foot, so I would imagine he's done. So, and like Florida State, I told you talked about Florida State, and like I like them, but Georgia Tech just took them to the woodshed. They turned it over like 27 times. But again, I don't think that UNC Greensboro or Georgetown play the type of like defense that he plays. Like, so yeah, I think that's the toughest for me.
I'm going to have to agree with you. I think, again, you just mentioned Florida State. I think Florida State had 2 actual COVID pauses as well. And there's so many teams in this. Like I could see Michigan State or UCLA beating BYU, but if BYU's hitting shots, I could see BYU being in the Sweet 16.
Yep.
If Texas plays like they did at the beginning of the season, they could be in the Final Four.
Or how they played in the Big 12 tournament, because they played really well in the Big 12. They're hard to match up with because they have really good guards and they are huge down low.
Yeah, and they're not only they're athletic down low as well.
Yeah, right.
Getting long block shots, but I have Florida State coming out of this regional. I think be honest with you, they're just so athletic at every position. Literally every player can play the point guard except for their center. And it's just when you have that many guys that can handle the ball. And now I think there's a little bit to play for as well, because there's that stigma with the coach. I don't know why.
Yeah, Leonard Hamilton.
There's always the stigma with Leonard Hamilton is he has all these teams, but they never live up to it.
Right.
And then last year was the year they were supposed to live up to it, and this year they weren't going to be good.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you heard this, but Leonard Hamilton actually tore his Achilles yesterday.
Oh crap! No, I didn't hear that. That stinks.
Yeah. So he's going to be coaching
That's a tough one to come. It's going to be on the
Ron Hunter thing like a couple years ago.
That was awesome.
So I'm going to take this part on this one. I'll start this one. The weakest regional. And I think the best team in the tournament is in this regional. But I think if you look from top to bottom, I think this is a cakewalk for that team to get to the Final Four. And that's the West bracket, which it should be that way. When you play the entire season the way the Gonzaga did, and you earn that number 1 overall seed, you deserve to have that bracket. Now, your 2 seed is Iowa. Everyone that follows me on Facebook knows how I feel about Iowa.
Yeah.
Their 3 seed is Kansas. Everyone that follows me on Facebook knows how I feel about Kansas. Kansas, I have them going to the Sweet 16, but we talk about Georgetown being a hot team. We talk about other teams. Eastern Washington is as hot as anybody that's coming into the tournament.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you got, your 5 seed is Creighton. I don't know of anyone that I've seen that doesn't have Creighton losing. Ever since that stuff that happened with McDermott in the locker room, they have not played well.
No, totally agree.
Whether you agree with it doesn't matter. They haven't played well. It's obviously affecting that team in some way. Right. And then your 4 seed is Virginia. Virginia kind of stumbled down the stretch. They barely beat Syracuse. And then they had the COVID pause. You kind of got to wonder who's going to play for them.
Right.
You get to the Sweet 16 and you have all of your guys back. It's a different story. But at the end of the day, man, Gonzaga has guys from top to bottom, and they have depth. That team is loaded.
Well, and what Gonzaga does, like what Virginia does defensively, they want you to shoot outside shots. And you really can't do that with Gonzaga. Like I said earlier, like they run a really good offense. They're not Alabama where you're going to shoot 25 threes a game.
Yeah.
30 threes a game or whatever. They might shoot 20, 24, but they got the big dude inside that can hurt you. But they're going to soften up that defense because of the way they shoot the ball. I tell you who I like a little bit. I got them going to the Sweet 16. I like USC. I've watched them play in the Pac-12 a couple of times.
Evan Mobley.
And he's really good. And I know you're not a big fan of Iowa, but I don't know who's gonna. My thing with them is they can shoot the ball and they have that big, but they don't guard people. So, and then I'm with you on the Creighton. I've watched them play. Georgetown beat the brakes off of them. And then, and then I like the I like that Oklahoma Missouri game
Let's go ahead and move to that part because you mentioned it earlier. Let's go ahead and move to what our intriguing games of the tournament are, because you just named one of them that you would like. So let's just go ahead and transition into that because I know you'd mentioned that Oklahoma Missouri game.
I just really like Oklahoma. Kind of struggled down the stretch. They went on a really good run in the middle, right?
They won 4 straight games against
four, and then like they kind of just went downhill. And Missouri, I've watched them play multiple times. Their style of play is really hard because they are so physical, but they've got those guards, man, that can get in the lane. And Tillman's a bruiser down low. And I'll say this because I am a Kentucky guy, but like I think the SEC top was pretty good this year. It wasn't as good as the
Missouri for me is a team that I'll watch and I don't understand how they're good.
I agree because like they beat early. They beat Illinois and they beat them bad. They were up like 1.25.
Yeah.
So I like that game, but I don't see them getting past Gonzaga because they just don't have that, that type of I don't think they can do that. I don't think they can beat Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga at the end of the day is big enough inside to negate Tillman. I just don't know if Oklahoma is, but like I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma won. I just wouldn't be. That's why I'm intrigued by it because I mean they've shown the ability to be really good.
One of the games that I'm intrigued about is the one we just talked about is Georgetown and Colorado. Georgetown's one of the hottest teams coming into the tournament. You have Colorado, who's been just kind of this steady team the entire season.
Right. Yeah.
Not really been too great. They've not been bad. But I don't know. It's just you got to wonder how much longer can this Patrick Ewing train go? Can they continue the momentum that they had in the Big East tournament? So I'm very intrigued to see that because that's the biggest thing that I feel like Pitino always did was his teams always did peak at this time.
Yeah. No, I agree with – yeah. I mean, my thing is I think with Georgetown, I mean, I have them going to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Because I think they're hard to match up with.
And it's all about how you're playing at the moment.
And that's like people probably – but like, crazier things have happened. But there's just something that I like teams that can guard because – you're not always going to hit shots.
Yeah.
But if you can stop people, you're going to be in the game. So I do like that. I agree with like that game. And again, like I said, a lot of this depends on like officiating crews matter in these early games because you just don't know like how they're going to call it. Cause like I watched the SEC games and like they were calling touchdowns. I watched Oklahoma State and Texas play, and I mean, it was like a slugfest. I mean, they were fist fighting. They were letting it go.
My biggest thing is as long as you're consistent with the team the entire time, a team can adjust to what you're doing, and that's normally where games get won or lost is because the inconsistency was that the team can adjust.
Right, but I think that it hurts Georgetown more than some teams because they play in such a way that like it kind of matters. Yeah. Like I don't think they want to get up and down and run, like they did before. But beating Villanova was huge for me, and without Gillespie. So, but yeah, I mean that game really intrigued me. I tell you, I like Oklahoma State a lot too. We're not to that bracket yet, but I can get to that.
We can go in any order. What's I know you mentioned the BYU Mississippi or Michigan State game. That's a game that intrigues me because. I know Michigan State played well at some points down the stretch, but then they didn't look very good in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah,
and BYU is a team that is predicated off making shots, which it's a very dumb term, I guess you could say, but no, they shoot a lot of outside shots, so they're predicated off shooting outside shots.
They're like Alabama in that sense, but Alabama can beat you both ways because they can get up and down the floor, and they're going to shoot a lot of shots.
Yeah,
Could
you picture if Colin Sexton was still on this team?
Oh my God! Like they
would probably be the number 2 overall seed in my opinion.
I mean, although we were talking about Rick. I mean, he knows how they play.
Yeah,
and he's played that way. But I don't think they'll beat him. I mean,
I think it could be close for a half, 1.5 half of the game. But I think Alabama just has too many horses and will end up pulling away at the end.
I've got them going I actually have Alabama going to the Final Four. I know we'll get to that.
There's so many teams in this bracket.
Yeah,
I feel like could make the Final Four, and you could say that's why Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a legitimate argument for that.
Right. I really wanted to pick LSU to beat Michigan, but the other thing is too about LSU, it's hard to explain how the way Michigan plays, they have to get up and down the floor, and that's how. But like, I have to look back and think that a 9-16 Kentucky team beat them by almost 25, and
Yeah.
like
What's the same with
that.
Florida? You all beat
Yeah,
Florida pretty bad too.
I know, and so like, you know, I like Georgetown against Florida State because I think that their physicality will bother Florida State,
Yeah.
and they're big enough to like kind of play with because their size is just
You talking about Florida State?
yeah. I mean, they're
It's
huge.
unreal. I mean, your starting point guard 6'9",
Right?
and he's a long 6'9". Not like Cade Cunningham is a 6'7", 6'8", but he ain't long like Scotty Lewis is.
Yeah, and physical,
or Scotty,
and just yeah,
Scotty Barnes.
Yeah. So but the South. We talked about the 1 seed you think's going to get upset.
Well, I still have some more games that kind of intrigue me. That
Okay, go ahead.
The North Carolina-Wisconsin game.
Yeah.
I think either one of those teams, if they put it together, could beat Baylor. I don't have Baylor losing there, but I think like that,
Right.
both of those teams have enough talent to do it. The game right underneath that, Villanova and Winthrop. You have Villanova missing Connor Gillespie. There's not a bracket that I picked Villanova to beat them in.
I know.
And then Arkansas and Colgate. Colgate's a very interesting team because they only played 15 games, but I think they're number 6 in the net.
Yeah.
Number 6 or 8 in the net. And then my last one kind of lost a little bit of its luster because the best player, the ACC player of the year, Moses Wright, is now out. But still, Loyola Chicago and Georgia Tech, I think, could be a battle that maybe end up being the best game of the tournament.
That was one of mine too, because the way Georgia Tech plays, the way I saw it for, like when we played them, like everybody said they weren't good, they hadn't practiced, and like I saw something I said to myself, like they're not like world beaters, but like it takes some skill to be able to play a defense like the changing defense like he does, and like be able to. Like, I love how he traps in the corners in the 2-3 zone, but just out of nowhere. Like, it's not all the time. It's just certain situations.
Yeah.
So, and then Loyola Chicago is good.
Yeah.
And Sister Jean kind of threw some shade. She said she was looking at her bracket and she didn't see Kentucky. I was like, all right, Sister Jean.
Well, you got to think, man, she's 101. She's watched every NCAA tournament. It's probably kind of weird for her not to see Kentucky in there.
You're right. She's probably was there when James Naismith had been at the game.
All right, so let's move over to who we think is the first 1 seed to lose. Like, who do you think, in your opinion, you're looking at the bracket and you're looking at their matchups? Who do you think is the first 1 seed to lose?
I kind of think it's Baylor, and I think that because I think North Carolina or Wisconsin can beat them, and I don't think they're playing the same as they did prior to their last COVID pause. I think North Carolina's size can really bother them, but then Baylor's guards are really good. So that, or honestly, like Michigan's kind of the easy one though, because like they don't have Isaiah Livers, and that's a big deal. But I think their road to get to the Sweet 16, like I said, LSU could beat them, but I still think Michigan could beat them comfortably. So I guess for me, it's Baylor. I watched them play multiple games, and they almost got beat the game before the Oklahoma State game. So I think Baylor, in my opinion, is the one that would get upset the earliest.
I'm gonna go with the easy one, Michigan. I mean, we've
right.
mentioned it a lot. Missing Livers is a big thing. I don't think Livers is a pro, but I think he's a fantastic college player.
Oh yeah,
or maybe not a pro star. I think he could be a pro, but he's not going to be a superstar. But what he gives you, it's very hard to replace that stuff. And then not only that, you have LSU in the second round potentially, which. No one us talking about it saying Bonaventure will beat them just because we've just pumped LSU up.
Correct, 100%.
In my opinion, I think they play FSU in the Sweet 16, and Florida State will give them all kinds of problems.
Yeah, I agree with that.
With their athleticism and everything that they could do, I think they give Michigan all types of problems. So to me, it's Michigan.
Yeah. Well, I like the Isaiah Livers thing kind of like for me equates to like if you think about like 2013, if Luke Hancock got hurt before the tournament, it would severely hurt your all's chances to win a
Yeah.
national title. And like the reason I thought that is because I was lucky enough to go watch them run open gym because Daquan got to go play. And I remember Richard and I walked in the gym and I didn't know who he was. I had never seen him. And he's like sitting on the chair. He's got his clipboard. So I thought he was a coach. He's organizing the runs or whatever. And they're supposed to start at 3. And Zach Price and there was another guy came in late. It was a guy from Miami. Huh?
Probably Shane Mahanon.
No, it wasn't him. It was another guy. Came from Miami. Like he played
Angel Nunez, maybe?
Yeah, it was him. And like they walked in late at 3:00. No, they weren't. It was at 3:00. And like he stands up and he goes, "Where you all been?" And they're like, "Oh, we had to." He said, "Don't tell me you had class. Your last class ended at 1:00." He said, "We started at 3:00. That means we started 1:40. You're here at 2:45. We're on the floor ready to go at 3." And I looked at Gabe and said, "Yeah, you guys are going to probably win the national title." Well, no, actually, I first said, "Who is that? Is that a coach?" He goes, "Oh, no, that's a player. He transferred from my." I said, "Yeah, you guys are probably winning the national title." Because, like, I mean, and then I saw Russ go end to end, and I'm like, that's the fastest human I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And they just, but like him, I got the feeling that Peyton wasn't like a real talkative leader. You know what I'm saying? Like he led by example.
Yeah.
And sometimes with some guys like Shane Mahanon, you've got to lead a different way. Like you can lead by example, but he may not follow. And I think your boy Luke Hancock led by a different way, which is the impression I got. So I equate like Livers is that guy because he's played in the tournament. Like he's hit big shots in the tournament, and he's kind of what makes them go a little bit. So I agree with you that Michigan, but I just felt like it was way too easy because like I don't know, just something about Baylor. I don't know. I always think Drew's going to blow it.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know if we'll have the same one on the sleeper team, but who would you have if you're looking at the bracket? Who's a sleeper team?
It's not a sleeper, but like, I don't know. I feel like it's not a sleeper, but like Oklahoma State, man, I like them a lot because of the fact I think they had the best player. I think they have the best player. Maybe I think him and Suggs are like he might be 1 and Suggs is 1A, but like he's Oklahoma State, and then like a dark horse is probably I like Georgia Tech until their dude got hurt.
Yeah.
Or he's not playing or whatever. So probably it probably just is. There was a team, and I'm trying to think. God dang it, where'd it go? I got to like cipher through my bracket, which is online, so that's why there was a team that kind of intrigued me. You said it earlier. I like Connecticut too. I watched them play in the Big East tournament. I think Hurley's a really good coach. I think he's a better coach than his brother. I think that the guard they have, I think it's Boatwright is his name. Yeah, Bo Knight, James Bo Knight. He's a Kimball Walker type man. He's 6'5". He can shoot. He can put it on the floor. He can get around you, and like he can put you on his shoulders. Now he didn't have the Kimball Walker run, at the Garden where he basically just carried them to a national title.
Yeah.
But I do like them. But I do like Oklahoma State because I kind of like their bracket. I just think Cade Cunningham is really hard to plan for in a one-day basis. And watching him play in the Big 12, yeah, I mean, so like you look at their bracket, they would play Oklahoma State, would play Tennessee probably, and then they'd play Illinois. And I barely have Illinois beating them. But, I mean, I could see Oklahoma State winning that game. And I think if they win in that game, they're going to the Final Four. And if you get him in the Final Four, like –
they always say you get to the Sweet 16, all bets are off because at that point It's a problem. So this one's going to surprise you a little bit. You know who my sleeper team is?
No.
Liberty.
Whoa.
Yeah. I know you're talking all this stuff up about Oklahoma State. Liberty comes in winning 12 straight.
Yeah.
They win the Atlantic Sun. They shoot 39% as a team from the three-point line. They shoot 78% from the free throw line as a team. You have three guys that hit 40 or more threes. One of them hit 93.
Yeah.
They have a lot of things that could potentially that people just may overlook and say, "Oh, it's Liberty." Like,
yeah,
I have Liberty in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I mean, I could see yeah. And now that you say it, I mean,
Liberty is a team that, to me, if I'm Oklahoma State, that's not a team that I wanted to see. If I'm them, I would switch any of the 4 seeds their game instead.
I think for me, when I look at them, because I looked at it and I watched them play, I mean, their best win is against Mississippi State and South Carolina, and South Carolina was not good.
Yeah,
Mississippi State wasn't. Well, I mean, they were terrible. They got killed by Alabama. But I could see it. I mean, they're 23-5, like you said. They shoot 3. I don't know, man. I just think when you get into a game,
yeah,
like that with it's going to be a close game, and I take the best player on the floor. I mean, that's just me.
The other one is Colgate, and it's strictly just because of where they are ranked wise. They could break a lot of brackets, because I've seen some people have Arkansas making it all the way to the Elite 8.
I've got them going to the Sweet 16, I think. But, I'm with you. I almost picked Colgate because I watched them play, and I was like, dude, they're pretty good. They shoot the ball. But I like Eric. Like you said, we talked about Eric Musselman. I really like Eric Musselman a lot. I think he'll have them ready to go.
That's my 2 sleeper teams. All right, so I think we've kind of touched on it. What's a first-round upset you see happening? I mean, I just mentioned one of mine, but I'll tell you my other one that I actually wrote down.
Don't call me crazy. I mean, I've got Alabama going far, but I'm telling you, man, there's something about Rick Pitino in a 15-2 game where he knows how the team plays. I could see Alabama getting beat, because here's the thing about Alabama. They look, they're going to shoot 33s regardless. It doesn't matter if they are 25 for 30 or if they're 5 for 30. They're shooting 30. You catch them on that off night where they're 5 for 30. Dude, you can win that game,
Yeah.
So that's the one that pops out at me. And then, I think I have Georgetown going to the Sweet 16, which would be an upset over Florida State. But a 12-5 is not really an upset.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So one that we both agreed on was Winthrop over Villanova.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Missing the experience guarding Connor Gillespie. That I went and watched them play in person. That guy it stirs their drink, man.
Oh yeah,
he sits out of the game. That was when that big run happened towards the end of the game at Butler.
Right.
But here's another one.
Go ahead.
That I think could happen is Abilene Christian over Texas. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
No, you're right. Abilene
Christian is a very, very solid team. Texas is so wishy-washy with what and Shaka, and I'm gonna go ahead and call it. If they lose,
he might get
to be on the hot seat.
Yeah, I agree, because I've seen they've got some real between the ear stuff. So Texas is a team that can either get to the Elite 8 or they get beat in the first round. I can see that. I tell you another matchup, because you don't know who's going to play. Ohio is not as Ohio's pretty good, and you just don't know. And I could see Tony Bennett thinking I mean, from what I can gather, they had quite a few COVID cases. It wasn't just Duke, who had one.
Well, no, Duke has I think 10 now.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's apparently just going rampant.
So it went wildfire. So that was my thing about Louisville too, because if they got in, they played Duke, and if 10 guys from Duke have it, then it's got to be some dudes that played in the game. But if Ohio, I mean, they're 16-7 versus top 25, 0-1. They score 80 points a game, which is a lot.
Yeah.
They allow 73. So again, like I said, with Virginia, it's just if they have their dudes, it'll probably be fine. But if they don't, like I could see. Oh, that's the thing about COVID right now too, though. Like these teams are saying they can go because they're basically saying you just got to have 5 guys.
Yeah. You said that 5. You don't even have to have a
Right.
coach.
Right. You can just play.
Yeah.
Just player coach. Like so. I mean, you have no idea what Virginia is going to come into the tournament with. So I don't know. Like I didn't pick it, but like I thought that was one that jumped out that I thought like, well, that could be a B1.
All right, so let's move down to our Final Four. Who you got in the Final Four?
All right, I've got Daquan Lovett. I've got Ohio State, and I got Illinois, and then I've got Gonzaga, and I've got Alabama, and that was tough just because. But I feel like if they get to the Elite Eight, I mean, if they get to the Elite Eight, because they would play. I have them playing Michigan because I just think like I don't know if Michigan doesn't get beat by LSU, I think they're going to beat. I agree they could cause problems, but like I think Michigan matches up pretty good with Florida State in my opinion. But again, I think if they get to, I just think Alabama, if they get that far, they're going to go to the Final Four. So then I have Gonzaga playing Alabama, and then Illinois, Ohio State.
So we'll agree on the West. In the East, I have Florida State. Like I said, just give it their athleticism and what they can do from top to bottom. In the Midwest, I have Illinois. I've loved Illinois from the beginning of the season. I love Daniel Desumu, Kofi Coburn, Adam Miller. I think is their lefty wing shooter, and I love their freshman point guard as well.
Yeah.
And then in the South, I have Baylor. I have Baylor beating Ohio State in the Elite Eight. I don't know. I think Baylor has too much experience. They have a lot of guys back. I think, you get this little bit of rest in here, but you played right before it. I think it's a little different because they're getting to practice again where they didn't really get to practice that much towards the end of the season because of COVID. Yeah. I think that ends up bringing them back. But
my thought process with the Ohio State was I think they struggle with teams that are big. But when I watched them play Illinois, I mean, that big kid in the middle for them is like, he's tough. And I think if you can contain their guards at Baylor's guards and you can keep the one guy off the backboard, they got a guy that I cannot think of his name. I know I could see him in my, right in front of me, but I cannot think of his name. That he rebounds almost offensive rebounds 20% of shots or something like that.
Was it their freshman that they have? You talking about Ohio State?
No, I'm talking about Baylor.
Oh, Baylor. Okay.
Yeah. And so I think Ohio State matches up with them really well. So that's why I picked Ohio State. But then, like I said, I've got Illinois playing Gonzaga, and I got Illinois beating Gonzaga.
I like Illinois. It's one of the – I don't normally like the Big Ten, but I love watching Illinois play. That's a game that I would pay to go watch in person. I would love to watch that game. I would love to watch both of these Final Four games with my Final Four here. I have Illinois and Gonzaga, same matchup. I think a lot of people have the same matchup. I have Gonzaga winning by 11, and
I've got
the nets down.
I've got Illinois winning by 9. I think that I just think of all the teams in the tournament that I've watched multiple times, they match up really well. Their guards can guard.
Yeah.
So I think they can cause some problems for Suggs, and I think Gonzaga's big. I think Cockburn, I think he's better than the big at Gonzaga. But I mean, it could go either way.
By the way, the way his name is spelled is so unfortunate, but it's Coburn.
Yeah, Coburn. Okay, I said because that's what I thought it was. I'm like, is that how you say that? Or
yeah, it's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
Yeah, because that sounds terrible. Yeah, but I guess part of me doesn't want to see Gonzaga go undefeated, although I don't think it would be the same. I mean, Kentucky went 38-0. But, I mean, they would be the first.
I love Mark Few. I don't a lot of people crap on Gonzaga because they say they don't play anybody. They went out of their way to play everybody this year. The COVID pause stopped them from playing Baylor. But they played every other top team in the nation.
They almost played Kentucky.
Yeah.
I was trying to get a game that Thursday, but, we got beat by – whoever it was, so he just canceled the game. He wasn't going to do it. He thought it could help him. But I was thinking, that's not going to help you. That's going to kill us. They'll just destroy us.
Yeah.
But him and Mark Few are really good friends. But like, yeah, I've always thought Mark Few was really good. And I think once he broke into the Final Four and got to the national title game, you know, he had made strides. So like I said, I think overall this tournament's going to be a lot of fun. And honestly, when Kentucky got beat like that Thursday, I breathed. I like let out a sigh of relief, and I watched basketball all weekend, and I just didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
You know, because that game against Mississippi State, you know, I mean, I almost was like, just get beat by like 20, so I don't care. Like, I'm just like, you guys quit. But then I'm like, they fight back, and then he gets that three, and like, I'm thinking to my, like, there were so many fans too that were like really mad about the play. And I'm like, dude, they got a great look. I mean, Ben Howland came over and said, yeah. They were like, what were you thinking when he got that, when Allen got that? He said, are you kidding me? My heart was at my feet. He said, this guy's killed us in 2 games, and he's wide open. So, but yeah, no, I watched with just like, it was great to watch. You know, I had been watching Oklahoma, the Big 12, because everybody talked about how good it was, but the Big 10 was just, it was good, man. They're high. That's high. They're playing some high. Those games were like high level, and so was the Big 12. Like that game between Oklahoma State and I think it was Baylor. My Lord, that was a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
And so was the Texas game. I mean, that game went back and forth, just blow after blow after blow. So I like them. We talked about Texas, and like I like them too, but like I think they're I think they're all halfway crazy.
Well, man, that's really all that I got. I knew we would have a good conversation when we got on here, and we'd be able to have some stuff that we'll enjoy to listen to. I'm
not your high profile guest that you get, you know, your big time guests, but you know, I think when you can get two sides that like to think logically, although you were a little bit more off the edge with Kentucky fans, that's why I go at you, because you just like, you're like, ugh, why do you say that?
I just don't like when people talk out of the side of their neck. Like if you're logical with things, like don't say something when it's obvious that your team sucks. Like it's like me talking crap about a team that's in a tournament that won our conference or something. It's like, oh yeah, Georgia, we beat Georgia Tech by 20. Yeah, but they won the conference tournament. So
well, and then like I think the other thing that hurt you all too, and I didn't say, I think the ACC just wasn't as, when you look at the seeding, like your conference champion gets a 9 seed or a 9 seed.
I think they underseeded the conference a lot. I mean, I think they gave the Big 12 a little bit more of a pass. You got somebody like Kansas that lost the same amount of games as Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech won their conference, and you have them 6 spots ahead of them.
Yeah, I don't,
and you have them as an 8. Like, I don't know.
I think Kansas is. I don't like. I was like shocked, but they're like a 3, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm like, that is. I watched the Big 12. I don't think it was that much better than the ACC. I don't think it was that much better than the SEC. But like, you know, because you got teams like I like West Virginia a little bit, but I'm not sure how that'll pan out. You know how Huggins is. Either they can get beat in the first round, but I just felt like you all kind of got to. I mean, don't get me wrong. The ACC was not the ACC it normally is, like that, and that's just the facts. You know, but I don't think that like the Big 12 was that much better, and they got more teams in. You know, so I don't know. Like in the SEC, people were talking about Ole Miss, and I'm like, they just lost way too many games early on. Like you can't lose as many games as they did. Like I think the teams that got in the SEC were the right teams to get in. I wasn't like snubbed by. I tell you what though, too, like I wasn't like upset until they didn't get in. I 100% thought that they might put Duke in.
I didn't understand how that was becoming so close.
Well, just because it's Duke, man. Like it's Duke, and they draw. It's like if Kentucky was close, I would think.
But here's the thing: you're not getting a draw because you're having 25% fans in the stands. Sure, so that was what I didn't understand. It was like what is Duke done that's made you think that you should put them in the tournament?
I mean, nothing really, but I just thought I just could see it happening. Like them saying, well, they, COVID took them out of the tournament. And, I think they were going to, you just know how that people, like, I mean, you know how it is. Like, it's just like the year that Cal got beat by Auburn in the Final Four with Tyler Hero and those dudes. And, like, they were bashing him, like, he can't coach, one and done. And then 2 hours later, Duke gets beat by Michigan State with probably one of the best recruiting classes ever.
Yeah.
And like the whole tone changed because it had to, because now are you going to badmouth K? Are you going to say like he didn't do it? Because he didn't.
Yeah.
Because if you're a coach in that game, you look at RJ Barrett in the last 2 minutes in a timeout and say, if the ball doesn't go to Zion Williamson, I can't play you. So you got to come out, because Barrett took way too many shots.
And that was the thing for the entire season. Barrett was very, very good at times, but Barrett shot them out of some games. Barrett is the reason that they were losing to us until they came back, made that drastic comeback against them. He was not playing well. They brought Zion back in with 4 fouls with 9 minutes left.
Right.
Absolutely torched us.
And that's what I thought. I'm just like, you can't, and like, I could see it. Like, if you're watching the game as an objective fan, like, and somebody who's like been around the game, like, you literally look at that and you're like, dude, what do you like? You got to take him out. Like, the ball's got to go to Zion. They can't guard him.
Yeah.
And he never did it. But again, that's that thing, like, and I think it's because, like, you've got a group of coaches that really like the media a lot. Like, they talk to the media. They give them scoops, I think, sometimes. Cal's never been that guy. And, like, ever since he was at UMass and at Memphis, like, with the Derrick Rose stuff and then the Marcus Camby stuff, like, I was skeptical. I would say straight up, like, I was like, I have no, like, we're going to go on probation in about 6 years. And then when he got here, I mean, look, it's still a possibility. It could still happen, but, like, he's just, I don't know. I mean, he like I said, he's cut from that Rick Pitino cloth, and that's what you need here, because he can take the fans saying crazy stuff, but, like, some of these other guys would have taken it kind of personal, I feel like, and you just can't.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, that's what it is for him. I mean, so I don't know. I just like when they say we're going to get Billy Donovan, and I'm like, yeah, man, I said, I can't tell you how many times I've heard Billy Donovan's kids were enrolled in Lexington Catholic and that he just bought a horse farm and there's a plane flying from Gainesville.
Yeah.
Because I was all in. I was convinced after Tubby left, like Tubby was gone because Mitch Barnhart, and I still to this day think they had a deal behind closed doors, because I just don't think you forced Tubby out the way they did over, like, him not wanting to fire a coach, without having somebody. And I don't know what happened, but, like, I think it happened. But then again, you see he went to Orlando and 5 days later he's back at Florida.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just crazy when they say, I'm like, yeah, you just signed a multi-year contract with the Bulls. Like, what do you guys, and then I'm like, would you want to come coach there if you fired a Hall of Fame coach and you paid a $50 million buyout? Like, they talk about Adolph Rupp and, like, how it was hard for Joby Hall to, like, come in behind him. It's going to be really hard for somebody to come behind Cal, because, like, he has been I mean, he's won more tournament games than any coach. We've won more tournament games than any team in the country in the last, 10 years. And, like, so you can't really argue with it. Like, yeah, it sucked, but at the end of the day, like, I mean, it's 1 year.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Well, Eric, go take care of your kid. Looks like she was trying to get you off here the whole time.
Yeah, she doesn't like me doing stuff that's fun for me. Yeah. So yeah, we'll I want to check in with Richard, see how practice went tonight with the elementary school, and see how that 1-3-1's coming. That whole phone conversation yesterday was just, I was
Dumbfounded.
I was like, what? I said, dude, you coached at a prep school? You coached at, like, really good high schools? You coached at Taylor County? I'm like, you kind of could be a college assistant would be my get. Like, I would say you could, and you're coaching an elementary school team and you're talking to me about how the 1-3, they couldn't. And then I was like, come on, man. He goes, man, we're playing third grade division. I'm like, It doesn't make it any better, dude. Oh my gosh. But man, he he loves those kids, man, and he's coaching them up. And I tell you what, I swear I thought he was talking to AAU. When he said elementary, I was like, what is happening right now?
Well, Eric, I appreciate you coming on, man.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Our conversation here pretty soon.
Probably after like somebody pays $50 million to get Cal out of there.
Do me a favor, guys. Join my bracket pool on Facebook. There's a prize for it. If you win, you get a free tray of Mike and cheese and a Beef's Beef T-shirt, and it's free to join. So do it and share it for everybody to see. But Eric, again, I appreciate you joining me.
I'll join too. I didn't know you had that.
Yeah, I shared it. Go to my Facebook page or my podcast page on Facebook, and I've shared it on there. But man, I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
For sure, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, later.